Hi guys, I'm Tom, and today we'll explore who the Bride in Black is. One of the most chilling, iconic, and memorable malevolent spirits, or monstrous undead figures featured in the Insidious movie saga, directed by James Wan, is the Bride in Black, also known as Parker Crane or Marilyn Crane. This is the ghost of a serial killer seeking revenge against the psychic medium Elise Rainier, as she prevented him from possessing a boy named Josh Lambert. In the distant past, Parker was a man who disguised himself as an elderly woman dressed in black to carry out his grotesque murders. This behavior stemmed primarily from severe trauma he endured in his childhood, caused by his mother, Michelle, who was extremely abusive toward him. Due to his intriguing backstory, origins, and the significant role he plays in the Insidious saga, appearing even more frequently than the infamous Red Demon, along with his terrifying and iconic physical appearance, the Bride in Black is considered one of the most fascinating and frightening specters in Insidious. For this reason, in this video, I'll explain in detail the story and origins of Parker Crane in the saga, providing a chronological and comprehensive summary of the character in the films. I'll discuss his physical appearance, what we know about his personality and behavior, and his unique characteristics. Parker Crane's story begins on May 19, 1920, in the city of Hollister, California, when he was born to his parents, Michelle, and his father, whose name remains unknown. It was his father who decided to name him Parker, a masculine name, which caused resentment in Michelle from the start, as she had wanted a girl. Michelle was highly abusive toward Parker, mainly because she was always angry, perpetually in a psychotic state, and it is implied that she had severe psychological issues. Throughout his childhood, Parker suffered verbal and physical abuse at the hands of his mother. When he was 7 years old, his father was no longer in the picture. While it's never explicitly explained what happened, many fans, including myself, speculate that Michelle killed him in some way and covered it up as an accident or illness. Unfortunately, this left Parker alone with his mother. Parker and Michelle then moved to Los Angeles, to a large house where Michelle decorated Parker's room as if it were a girl's bedroom, with floral prints, pink curtains, and many dolls. There were also rocking horses, toys, and other items typically associated with girls. During this time, Michelle forced Parker to wear dresses, girls' shoes, and a wig, as well as refer to himself as Marilyn. On one occasion, Parker made a drawing of himself and his mother and signed it with his real name, Parker. This enraged Michelle, who slapped him violently and scolded him harshly, yelling that Parker wasn't his real name, but rather Marilyn, and that he needed to accept it. She told him that Parker was the name his father had given him, but it wasn't a girl's name, nor was it his true name. In the months and years that followed, Michelle Crane forced Parker to do many terrible things to other people, especially to girls, for no real reason. It simply seemed that Michelle enjoyed watching others suffer, as she was insane and deeply bitter. This becomes clear in a scene where we see Parker, or a memory of him as a child, in the afterlife. In this scene, Parker warns Elise and her partner not to come closer and to leave, because if his mother sees them, she will force him to kill them, just as she had forced him to kill other children. It is this brutal and tragic childhood that gave Parker Crane his homicidal tendencies and the habit of dressing as a woman, a practice he maintained throughout his adulthood, even into his old age. Eventually, Michelle died, and Parker inherited the house in Los Angeles, which he began to use as his main base of operations. At this point, Parker had become a ruthless serial killer. Now an older adult, Parker kept a low profile and never drew attention to himself or his neighbors. He did this throughout his entire adult life, and we know this because the various newspaper articles about his murders never describe him as a man, but as an elderly woman. This reveals that no one suspected Parker. It is implied, based on what we see in the different films, that Michelle eventually died when Parker was still relatively young. However, the ghost of his mother continued to torment him, forcing him to carry out murders and obey all her orders. As his nickname suggests, Parker would dress in a long black bridal gown, complete with a black veil, and would apply makeup to appear as an elderly woman. As the bride in black, Parker exclusively kidnapped women. He did this to satisfy his mother, who always wanted to have a daughter, and his acts of murder were a way of seeking revenge on society, as Michelle was never able to fulfill her desire for a daughter. After capturing them, Parker would tie up his victims, gag them, and then proceed to kill them brutally using various medical instruments, blades, and saws. He would then hide the bodies in a secret room inside the house, concealed behind a large bookshelf. The various newspaper articles mention that the bride in black killed a total of 15 victims. However, it is suggested that there were many more, as Parker would kidnap several women before killing them. Additionally, he didn't carry out all his murders exclusively in Los Angeles. He also operated in other cities and towns across California. Despite this, most of his victims were executed and hidden in his Los Angeles home, where he lived. Parker had a very strange fixation, like many serial killers. He liked to collect newspaper clippings that talked about him and his victims. He enjoyed the recognition in a way. One of these clippings mentions that a girl he tried to capture managed to escape and gave the police a partial description of her attacker. However, since Parker carried out his kidnappings in places far from his home, the police couldn't corroborate the girl's testimony. Also, no one suspected that an elderly woman could be the kidnapper and serial killer of women. Although Parker obeyed his mother or her ghost and killed many women, Michelle was never satisfied with his work. Because of this, she manipulated him and forced him to castrate himself, which left him severely injured and led him to be rushed to the hospital. On September 20th, 1986, at 3:05 a.m., Parker was rushed to the hospital after attempting to castrate himself. He nearly died due to the severe hemorrhage he caused. For this reason, the doctors and psychiatrists at the hospital diagnosed him with paranoid schizophrenia. One day, while being cared for by some nurses, Josh, the youngest son of Lorraine, one of the head nurses, grew curious and entered Parker's room. He wanted to watch his mother and also see the man. This act greatly angered Parker, who had a fit of rage. Envy consumed him because Josh was a young boy, while he was already an old man. At that moment, Parker realized how much he longed to regain his childhood and youth, something he had never been able to enjoy because of his mother. He fell into a deep crisis. Additionally, the guilt from all the murders he had committed overwhelmed him. 2 days after the incident with Josh, Parker threw himself from the top of the hospital, taking his own life. After his death, his spirit joined that of his mother in the further, leaving his house abandoned along with the corpses of his victims, which would only be discovered years later in a macabre and unexpected manner. The day after his death, Parker appeared as a ghost to Lorraine in the hospital. He got into a nearby elevator with her. Lorraine, unaware that Parker had already died, spoke to him and even apologized for any trouble her son Josh might have caused him. However, what was really happening was that Parker's spirit was now following the Lambert family, seeking to torment Lorraine and her son Josh. Because of this, Josh began experiencing night terrors, nightmares, and episodes of fear. He told his mother that an old woman with a veil was visiting him at night and in his dreams. At first, Lorraine dismissed these claims as a child's imagination. However, she soon realized that what Josh was saying was true. This happened when she noticed a mysterious figure appearing in photographs she took of her son. Initially, Lorraine assumed it was a camera error, but little by little, she understood that wasn't the case. Eventually, she discovered that an entity wearing a black bridal gown was indeed near her son, and it seemed to be getting closer with each passing day. In one of the photographs, she even saw the entity's hand nearly grabbing Josh, which deeply disturbed her and prompted her to seek help. All of this was happening because Josh Lambert, like his son Dalton, had unique psychic abilities. He could perform astral travel or astral projection without realizing it. Every night when Josh did this, he left his body like an empty vessel that could potentially be inhabited by another entity. In the universe of these films, it is revealed that for a spirit or demonic entity to successfully possess someone, it is a very slow process. It doesn't happen instantly as in other movies or works of fiction. The spirit must synchronize with the body, and if it doesn't do so correctly, the possession can fail. In such cases, the body will begin to deteriorate and decompose slowly. Parker Crane, in his disguise and identity as the Bride in Black, longed to feel life again and reclaim his youth. He described being alive as feeling the warmth of the sun, in stark contrast to being dead and trapped in the further, a cold and dark place he deeply despised. Parker specifically wanted to possess Josh because it would allow him to live a normal childhood and recover everything he felt his mother had taken from him. Fortunately, Lorraine, frightened by what was happening in the photographs, decided to contact Elise Rainier, a highly skilled psychic medium who excelled at her work. This deeply upset and disturbed Parker Crane, as he knew that if Elise succeeded, she would take away his chance to live again. Under hypnosis, while Elise guided Josh in one of his dreams, she approached a dark closet. In this place, Parker attacked her, scratching her arm brutally. Due to his connection to Josh, Parker could partially manifest in the physical world. This attack greatly frightened Elise, leading her to conclude that the entity tormenting Josh was not a friend, but a parasitic force that wouldn't stop until it possessed the boy. For this reason, Elise decided to hypnotize Josh so he would forget his ability to perform astral projections, thereby severing his connection to the further and specifically to Parker Crane or the Bride in Black. This frustrated Parker's plans, and in his anger, he focused on seeking revenge against Elise. Although the Bride in Black tried to find an opportunity to kill Elise, the latter rarely used her astral projection ability because she understood the dangers of the further. Even so, Parker remained connected to Elise for more than 20 years, waiting for the right moment to exact his revenge. That moment came with the death of Elise's husband, who tragically took his own life. It is implied that Parker Crane was aware of the man's depression and manipulated him, pushing him towards suicide. This tragedy drove Elise to venture into the further alone in an attempt to contact her husband. Despite knowing the dangers and understanding that pure, living souls should not venture into that place, the pain of her loss compelled her to try. According to Elise, during her astral projection, something followed her back, a woman filled with rage and malevolence, who was, in reality, Parker Crane. From that point on, every time Elise used her astral projection ability, she heard Parker screaming that he would kill her. Elise became convinced that if she continued working as a psychic medium, Parker would carry out his threat. When Quinn Brenner, a young woman, sought Elise's help to contact her recently deceased mother, Elise refused, explaining that it would be far too dangerous. However, Quinn attempted to make contact on her own, leaving herself vulnerable and partially possessed by the man who can't breathe, a malevolent spirit seeking to take full control of her. This forced Elise to intervene. She decided to help Quinn and ventured into the further to save her. There, she was brutally attacked by the Bride in Black, who had been waiting for her. During this attack, Elise was strangled both in the astral plane and in the physical world and nearly lost her life. After returning to the living world and freeing herself from Parker, Elise apologized to Quinn and her father. She explained that the Bride in Black had been waiting for her and that she had been afraid to return to that dimension of the dead. However, with the help of a friend and colleague, Elise found the courage and determination she needed to face her fears. She resolved to save Quinn once and for all, despite the immense risk to her own life. That is why the psychic enters the further once again. In the distance, she sees an older man who resembles her late husband. She attempts to approach the man, but at that moment, the Bride in Black attacks Elise and tells her this is the moment she will die. Elise defends herself with all her strength and manages to escape the entity by using her psychic abilities and the resilience she possesses as someone still alive. Although Elise challenges the entity and dares it to attack her, the bride in black decides to retreat. After saving Quinn, it is implied that the bride in black attacked Elise again, as another drawing of the bride in black, or Parker Crane, appears in her journal following the Quinn Brenner case. Considering that Elise came out of retirement after this case to continue helping people as a medium, alongside her new assistants and friends, Specs and Tucker, it makes sense that she would have faced that entity again. In 2010, Elise and Parker have their final confrontation. The bride in black becomes increasingly powerful and brutal. By that time, Elise had begun focusing more on using all the tools and abilities available in the real, physical world to avoid entering the further, making it almost impossible for the bride in black to attack or harm her directly. During this period, Lorraine seeks Elise's help because her grandson Dalton appears to be in a coma, along with his father, Josh Lambert, the same boy Elise saved from Parker Crane or the bride in black decades earlier. Elise approaches this case cautiously, unwilling to venture into the further on her own. It's important to note that Parker Crane does not attempt to possess Dalton on this occasion, despite him being a young child he could use to live a happy childhood. Parker knows that the Red Demon, also known as the Lipstick-Faced Demon, is after the boy and does not want to confront that entity, as he knows he would lose. Moreover, the Red Demon is very close to possessing Dalton, which would render any effort by Parker Crane pointless. With Lorraine's help, Josh Lambert regains his memories and his ability to astrally project. This allows him to enter the further to rescue his son. Josh successfully frees Dalton from the Red Demon's lair, but due to his lack of experience in astral projection, becomes overly exhausted and stops to rest momentarily before returning to his physical body. It is in this place, a version of the further resembling the Lambert family home, that Josh encounters a macabre apparition, the bride in black, holding a candle in front of what seems to be a window. However, for Parker, that window is the bathroom mirror. The bride in black, Parker Crane, uses the candlelight to draw Josh's attention, much like he did when Josh was just a boy. Josh confronts him and demands that he stay away from him and his family. Unfortunately, this turns out to be merely a distraction by Parker to keep Josh's spiritual body away from his physical body. In doing so, Parker swiftly possesses Josh's body and wakes up in the real world, trapping Josh in the dimension of the further. While the bride in black lingers in the darkness before Josh in the further, Parker Crane, now in a new body, pretends to be Josh. Although he acts as though everything is normal and successfully convinces Dalton, Elise quickly realizes that an unfamiliar presence has taken possession of Josh's body. That is why Elise takes a photo of Josh to discover who is truly occupying his body. Upon reviewing the photo, she sees the bride in black, which fills her with fear. Upon being discovered, Parker Crane becomes enraged and, using Josh's body, overpowers and strangles Elise, killing her once and for all. In the living world, Elise lacks her psychic powers to defend herself. In this way, Parker executes his revenge and gruesomely fulfills his promise. Rainier realizes that it was apparently Josh who killed Elise. However, Parker cleverly does not kill Rainier, as he does not want to risk his new body being arrested and sent to prison. While the police investigate the situation, the Lambert family moves into Rainier's mother's house. During this time, Parker Crane pretends to be Josh Lambert. Something deeply disturbing is that the police discover that the hands that killed Elise do not belong to Josh, but to another person, Parker Crane. For this reason, they release Josh, as there is not enough evidence to arrest him. This sets the stage for the most intriguing plot of the second film, which involves Parker Crane pretending to be Josh. Although Parker now occupies a living body, he continues to be tormented by the ghost of his mother, Michelle. She also manifests before the Lambert family in their new home. Eventually, Parker, in Josh's body, enjoys some of the simple pleasures of life, feeling the air on his face, drinking a glass of water, and smelling Renai's hair. However, his deceit is slowly uncovered. Worse yet, Parker realizes that Josh's young, healthy body begins to deteriorate and die. His teeth fall out, and his appearance becomes increasingly aged and haggard. Michelle explains to Parker that a dead soul cannot control a living body, and that by doing so, he is killing Josh's body. According to Michelle, the only way to stop this is by killing Renai. However, it can be assumed that this is false, as Michelle always manipulated and deceived Parker into murdering women. Most likely, Parker possessed Josh's body too quickly and incorrectly. With the help of Carl, a psychic friend and colleague of Elise, along with Specs and Tucker, they manage to confront Parker Crane in Josh's body. However, they fail in their first attempt, and Parker tricks Renai and Lorraine into returning to the house, where he ambushes and attacks them again. After a brief struggle with Renai and Lorraine, Parker manages to corner Renai, knock her to the ground, and begins strangling her. At that moment, Renai looks directly at the entity trying to kill her, the Bride in Black. It is here that Dalton suddenly appears and hits Parker with a baseball bat, saving his mother. Both manage to hide in the house's basement. Meanwhile, the real Josh, along with Elise in her ghostly form and Carl, are in the further, searching for Parker Crane's house. Elise explains that they need to use Parker's memories to expel him from Josh's body. In the further, Elise finds a younger version of Parker Crane and convinces him to open the door to his memories. This allows her to destroy the memories of his mother, freeing him. At that moment, Elise brutally strikes Michelle's ghost with a wooden rocking horse, destroying her completely. This liberates Parker Crane, as with the disappearance of his mother's ghost, he no longer needs to exist as the Bride in Black. His soul is freed from the further, although, due to his crimes in life, it is likely he ends up in hell alongside his mother, Michelle. In this way, Elise defeats her most powerful rival, though it cost her physical life. However, she succeeded in eliminating the terrible threat posed by the Bride in Black, or Parker Crane, ensuring he could never harm anyone again. Well, now that we've covered all this, I want to talk to you about the physical appearance of the Bride in Black, as well as what we know about their personality and behavior. The Bride in Black has a unique physical appearance. Although he is a man disguised as a woman, the makeup he uses gives him the appearance of a very old woman. He wears a Victorian black wedding dress, complete with a veil, and his overall look is quite spectral. His skin is extremely pale, his hair is long and unkempt, and his face is full of wrinkles and distinctive marks caused by the makeup Parker applies. He is usually seen carrying a red candle, which makes his appearance even more terrifying and striking as the light from the candle contrasts with the darkness of the further. Parker Crane's personality is very complex. He is an evil being who seeks revenge on Elise for taking Josh away from him. Interestingly, once he possesses Josh's body, he shows no interest in killing anyone else after fulfilling his revenge. Even though he has many opportunities to kill Carl, Specs, and Tucker, he doesn't. This is partly because he does not want to kill anyone else, and partly because his victims have always been women. Something macabre is that when he is hurt and feels pain, Parker mentions that it reminds him of what he felt when inflicting pain on his victims before killing them. Because of this, he begins to seek out ruthless murders again, though exclusively targeting women. An interesting detail is that, at first, when Parker possesses Josh's body, all he wants is to assume Josh's life and role as a family man. Parker wants to experience a normal life with a wife and children, something he never had. This shows that, while Parker is deceitful, manipulative, and evil, he also sees himself as a victim of his circumstances and his mother, Michelle. For this reason, Parker can be seen as a tragic villain in a certain sense. This is everything we know about the Bride in Black, Parker Crane, from the entertaining Insidious saga. Personally, I find this villain to be one of the scariest and most brutal in the series, of course, after the powerful and mysterious lipstick-faced demon. What I love most about Parker Crane's character is that he serves as a direct rival and villain to the protagonist, psychic medium Elise Rainier. The Bride in Black is the reason Elise is afraid to use her powers and to continue helping people in need. His entire backstory and mythology are fascinating and macabre. The fact that he was a serial killer who disguised himself and has such dark origins tied to his mother, Michelle, makes him a very complex and terrifying villain. The concept of his dead soul rotting the body he possesses is chilling. Ever since I saw the second movie, it left me wondering how something like that would work. Additionally, the fact that Lipstick-Faced Demon took so long to possess Dalton speaks to just how malevolent that entity truly is. The iconic and macabre identity of Parker Crane, along with his key role in Elise's character development, makes me consider The Bride in Black one of the best aspects of this saga. But tell me, what do you think? Did you already know about The Bride in Black or Parker Crane? Were you familiar with his story and origins? Lastly, how do you see this character? Do you consider him a complete villain or a tragic villain who is a victim of his mother's circumstances? Leave your answers to these questions and your general opinion about The Bride in Black from the entertaining Insidious movie saga in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and share it to support the channel. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of my new videos.